أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم اخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا من خزائن علومك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. My brothers and my sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, فَلْيَنْظُرْ الْإِنسَانِ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ. Let man look towards his food, where he gets his food from. And Imam Al-Baqir alayhi salam, when he does tafsir of this verse, he says that food in this verse is referring to knowledge. That man must look towards where he receives his knowledge from. So it's not enough for us to just seek information from anywhere and then believe in it. You shouldn't believe in anything until you know where it comes from, until you know its source. And this is especially important when it comes to the topic that we're discussing. The theme of Islamic eschatology and the end of days. You're going to find all sorts of different stories about how this prophecy comes true. Because this prophecy and the stories of the end of days, they're not just relevant in Islam. There's Jewish eschatology and Christian eschatology. There are so many different prophecies in different religions and within the different denominations of Islam. So if you search up the end of days or the signs of the end of times on YouTube, even if from an Islamic scholar, you don't know if what he's saying is from the Ahlul Bayt. So you have to be very careful about whatever it is that you look to know if it's from the Ahlul Bayt or not. So since Fajr, I've been reading till just now, just to make sure that everything I'm bringing is from sources of the Ahlul Bayt and nothing else. Okay? So everything I'm going to say today, the reason why I open up with this is because I know I'm going to bring up a lot of information today that you're not used to. The reason why I wanted to speak about this topic is because I personally haven't come across someone who spoke about it yet in the English world. So I wanted to speak about it. Yesterday we began speaking about how the Imam is alive and amongst us and how we can relate it to our world today. Now the difficulty is that when we speak about these signs, they are just signs pointing towards the future. Ultimately, they're from the unseen. So we don't know if what's told to us, shukran, what's told to us in the reports is exactly what's happening right now. Now, you can theorize and you can say, well, this makes sense, the shoe fits, so this must be what's happening right now. This is what the narration said, maybe, but maybe something passes and it doesn't happen. And then maybe it happens again, okay? So a lot of what I'm going to say is going to sound very relevant to what's happening today. And it could be about what's happening today, but it also couldn't be. So just keep that in mind as well. And sometimes they are very, very accurate that it might trip you out. I want to read a hadith that trips me out all the time. Just so you guys can see. And also so you don't say that I'm a fanatic trying to spread wilayah everywhere, because I'm going to read this to you and you're going to make up your mind for yourself, okay? Imam Musa al-Qadim alayhi salam, and this narration is found, sallallahu alhamdulillah Muhammad. Imam al-Qadim, and the narration is found in Bihar al-Anwar in volume 60, page 216. He says that there will come a man, رَجُلٌ مِنْ أَهْلِ قُمْ, that comes from Qum. يَدْعُ النَّاسَ إِلَى الْحَقِّ. He will call people towards truth. He will call people towards a path of truth and righteousness. يَجْتَمِعُ مَعَهُ قَوْمٌ كَزُبْرِ الْحَدِيدِ. People will gather around him and they will have such courageous hearts. A mass amount of people will gather around this one man from Qum. لا تزلهم الرياح العواصف. The storms and the winds will not break them, will not bend them. They will never go sideways, not left nor right. ولا يملون من الحرب ولا يجبنون. They will not cower from war when war comes towards them. They are not cowards. They are people that are ready to fight when the war comes. وعلى الله يتوكلون والعاقبة للمتقين. And they rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, it's not my fault that that sounds like Imam Khomeini. It's not my fault. Okay? I'm not saying it is. It might not be. But it might be. It sounds like it is. But it might not be. I can't say it's him. But you can't say it's my fault. Okay? That was written hundreds of years ago. But it sounds scarily accurate, doesn't it? Okay? طيب. I'm not trying to spread anything here other than what's going to be said in the words of the Ahlul Bayt, and then everyone go and make up your own mind. Okay? Because I know how these things get. But I'm going to say it like it is, yani. I don't know if I'll be invited again, but yallah. Inshallah. Maybe something will come up. I can't come back into the country, maybe. طيب. No one said I will. طيب. The Imam will come back mainly for 3 different reasons. The first reason will be a historical reason. The second reason will be a religious reason. And the third reason will be a spiritual reason. And the first reason being a historical reason is because he has to purify Islam from its past. The Muslims, right after the Prophet, corrupted Islam. They did not listen to the Prophet. They did not follow his successor. And there was a book that was written that was the truest tafsir of the Quran. It's known as Mus'haf Ali, which is also recognized by other denominations of Islam, by the way. This is not a Shi'i story. And this book was rejected by the people of that time. And so the Imam took the book and kept it, and the book is with Imam Mahdi. Okay, so the truest tafsir of the Quran is not available for us because of that. And of course, 2 disasters. One, the killing of the daughter of Rasulullah, and the greatest disaster was the killing of the grandson of Rasulullah. And so the Imam must return to avenge the blood of Imam Al-Hussain alayhi salam, to purify Islam, because Islam and the Muslims must absolve themselves of this great sin. So the Imam must come back to avenge this. That's why you always see those banners and they say that the Imam's going to avenge the death of Abu Abdullah, and you think, is that how important that is, that the Imam's going to return at the end of days for this reason? Yes. That's how great a tragedy it was. And Islam can never be in its purified form before the Imam avenges it. That's one of the reasons. The second reason is the religious reason, that the Imam must bring back the sense of the sacred into the world after it has been lost. And that is something that we can apply today. The sense of the sacred is all but lost in the modern world. People are godless. We live in godless societies, secular societies. It's seen as something that's backwards. We spoke a little bit about this yesterday as well. And so when he returns with the revelations, the true revelations of the religions of the past. So he returns with the true gospel and the true Torah. And he returns with Mus'haf Ali as well. He returns with the seals and the different symbols of the prophets before him. And this is something that you'll find also in the narrations of the end of times, that the gospel, the true gospel and the true Torah will be found in modern day Turkey, in a cave, in a chest called Tabut as-Sakina. This chest, Tabut as-Sakina, is also something that's prophesied within Judaism and Christianity with different names. Some call it Tabut al-Rab, Tabut al-Ahd. Okay, it's an ark, a chest, it's a treasure chest. And it has all sorts of very essential items, historical items in it. One of them being the true Torah, the other being the true gospel. Okay, it comes with the people of the cave who also come at the end of times with this treasure chest. So the Imam returns to bring back true religion and the true sense of the sacred. And that's what is meant ultimately when we say that Adam is Muslim, Nuh is Muslim, Ibrahim is Muslim, Musa is Muslim, Isa is Muslim. Yes, because the true gospel and the true Torah are essentially identical to true Islam. Because all of this was one river of truth. And these were all prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we say everyone becomes Muslim, هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent His messenger with guidance and the true religion, وَالدِّينُ الْحَقِّ, in order for it to reign supreme over all religions. Yes, Islam will reign supreme over all religions in this way, because finally the Christians will receive their true revelation without any changes. And the true Torah, the one that Abraham and Moses intended, the one that Jesus intended, the real one, which is identical to what Allah has wanted His people and the followers of the religion to receive. So it would be hand in hand with the Quran. The ones who reject will be the stubborn ones. So they will be the ones that will ultimately want to go to war. The others will take the back seat because they will see that the world of unseen is showing them the truth and they will accept that. And finally, the spiritual reason is so that the Imam can unlock that potential in insan. That we go back to hikmah, to wisdom, and we uncover truly our aql, our intellect, our reasoning prowess, that which differentiates us from animals. That we realize our true humanity when we come towards the truth and following the Imam. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So then we come towards the idea of the end of times, and then you always come up with this personality, this mysterious figure that people talk about a lot when it comes to eschatology, and that is Al-Dajjal. You guys have heard of Dajjal? Okay. What's interesting is when it comes to Shi'i literature, Dajjal is barely mentioned. The Dajjal is not a very important figure within Shi'i eschatology. There are a few hadiths that speak about him, and I'll tell you what they say. But the main Antichrist figure within Shi'i literature is not Al-Dajjal, it's Al-Sufyani. And I'll mention who Al-Sufyani is right after I tell you what we have to say about Al-Dajjal. So, the Dajjal is a mysterious figure that appears at the end of days, said to be the Antichrist. He has, it's said, one eye. He's a figure that is able to deceive and cause fitna and sedition in the land. And he confuses people into thinking that good is bad and bad is good. Haram is no longer haram. People begin to follow him because they're deceived by him and he is attractive to them. So we have a narration from Rasulullah where he says that he gathers his companions around him and he tells them of days to come. And he tells them that there will be a day in which your women and your children and yourselves will no longer care about al-amr bil-ma'roof wal-nahi an al-munkar. You will no longer care about enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. And this was a very important part of Islam to the companions. And so they said, could that be, Ya Rasulullah? And he said, yes, but it gets worse. It will get to a point. What do you think about a time in which you will enjoin the evil and you will forbid the good? And that points towards that power of Dajjal, or what will happen at the end of times. that you will enjoin the evil and you will forbid the good. And this was a huge deal to the companions. They couldn't believe that. They were in shock. And they said, could that be, Ya Rasulullah? And he said, it gets even worse than that. He said, what would you say about a time in which you believed? Notice how this is worse than the previous point. He says, you believed good to be evil and evil to be good. That was the worst part. And then the hadith ends there. Why is that worse? Ma'inno, the second point, you were acting. The third point, you believed something. And you would think that the action is worse than the belief, but no. Because on the second point, you're enjoining the evil, forbidding the good, but you can still be reasoned with. Because you know it's evil, and you know it's good. But you're still doing evil, but you know it's evil. Khair, but I can try to plead with you. But what happens when you actually believe evil to be good and good to be evil? That's called compound ignorance. Jahil murakkab. That kind of ignorance you can't reason with because you think that you know, but you don't know. You don't know that you don't know. So how can I tell you that you don't know? Because whenever I try to speak to you, you just say, no, I know. Right? You can't reason with someone that has compound ignorance. And that's why it's futile today to speak to these aggressors, trying to plead with them, when they really believe that they are superior and they really believe they have more right to life than you and I. Some of them actually believe themselves to be good. You can't reason with them. So, Al-Dajjal is one who some even say is maybe not a figure. Especially when it comes to the other denominations of Islam. They have a lot that's written about him. And a lot of them come from Israeliyat. Okay? They were influences from other traditions that crept into the Islamic tradition. We didn't take those in. And if we did, we don't accept those Israeliyat. Okay? That's what they called those types of narrations. Because they were influenced by traditions from Bani Israel. So they also have this idea of this Antichrist, and it crept into the Islamic tradition. So this Al-Dajjal could be a system, and that's why everyone freaks out with the dollar sign and the pyramid and the Jay-Z and one eye and Illuminati and everything. Okay? And Rihanna played backwards and everything. Did you guys watch The Arrivals? I'm too old, huh? If you haven't watched The Arrivals, alhamdulillah, you don't have to watch The Arrivals. That freaked us out when we were kids. So, when it comes to the Shi'i tradition, the Antichrist that we believe in is called Al-Sufyani. He is the true arch nemesis of Imam Sahib Al-Asri wa Zaman. This Sufyani, he's a man. He's a figure, he's a man. But behind him is a great system, so it makes no difference. We still believe there's a whole system behind him. There's a whole power behind him. Al-Sufyani, in our traditions, is said to be a descendant of Abu Sufyan. That's why they call him Al-Sufyani. Obviously, his name is not Al-Sufyani. The names that the Ahlul Bayt use are symbolic names. Okay? So Al-Khurasani, Al-Yamani, Al-Sufyani, these are symbolic names. That won't be the man's name. Al-Sufyani is not his name. He is a descendant of Abu Sufyan. In other traditions, he's a descendant of Muawiyah. And Imam Ali alayhi salam has a narration about him where he says that he is the son of the woman who ate the liver. She ate Hamza's liver, Akut al-Akbad. He's a man who is rugged with a massive body. He is fair-skinned and reddish, pale and reddish. And he has blue eyes. So don't think of an ISIS fighter when you think of Sufyani. He's more European. And the traditions point towards him actually having a Western education, coming from Western culture, and perhaps being brought up in the Western world, not in Syria. Okay, the Syria happens all at the end. What happens in Syria is all at the end. He is brought up in the West, or at the very least, he receives a Western education and he comes from Western culture. In Shaykh al-Tusi's Kitab al-Ghayba, he says that Al-Sufyani comes forward from the people of Rome with a cross around his neck. He wears the cross on his neck. And he was born Muslim, but he became a Christian, and he represents the type of crusader, hardline Christian, and he pretends to be very religious, but he wears a cross around his neck. Okay? So he comes from that part of the world. He's very charismatic and someone who people gather around. He's able to garner a lot of people around him. Now, why we say he comes from the people of Rome, in the Quran, we know the people of Rome to be those who were in the Byzantines, those who opposed Rasulullah were early. Okay? The empire of Rome, the Roman Empire, with Rome as its capital in modern day Italy. That's not who we're talking about now. He's not from Italy. When we say the people of Rome, this is a power that we apply to when it comes to any power in the world, like the Roman Empire of that time, that was colonizing the world and trying to enslave the world with its power. The Roman Empire of that time, with Rome as its capital, it was running Germany, it was running modern day Britain, it was running France. All these countries were under it. Now, after it's dismantled, obviously it went from Rome, the capital then became Constantinople. And when the Ottomans invaded, they took that and then they named it Istanbul, and then later it became Istanbul. So Constantinople is modern day Istanbul. And then that became a Muslim place. Istanbul means either the center of Khilafah or many Muslims. So this idea of the people of Rome doesn't just disappear. When that empire dissolves, that power remained. It has inheritors today. Who are the inheritors of the colonial superpower today? Who is the Roman Empire of today? Who is the Roman Empire that can stand in front of 150 countries in the UN voting for a ceasefire in Gaza, but it says no and has a veto power, and then no one can do anything? Who is that Roman Empire? Okay, I'm saying the shoe fits. So the US is that empire. The US and Europe, they continued that power that was inherited from the people of Rome. So we're not talking about the people of Rome in the Quranic context here. When we say a Sufyani comes from the people of Rome with a cross around his neck, that's what we're speaking about. He comes from there and he represents those people. Now, he goes to occupy Palestine. When people say that we're Shia, we have nothing to do with Palestine, check your narrations. He goes to occupy Palestine. Now, whether right now, if Palestine is liberated today or not, Sufyani is still going to come and still going to go to occupy Palestine. Okay, so understand this. If Sufyani comes out now, then he just makes the job a lot quicker for us so we can just get this over and done with. But if he doesn't, then we're going to have to liberate it again. Okay, so it's a long road, but we don't give up. So he goes to occupy Palestine. Why? Because that's the place where this battle is always going to be the compass. That's the place where the main battle is going to happen. And that's the place where he's able to create a line of defense for the people of Rome before they get to the lands of Rome. And his main aim in the beginning is not even to fight Muslims. It's to establish control in the region for whichever government he represents. So that's not clear. But he represents a very strong global power. He's a ruler, very strong, charismatic, gathers a lot of people, and he is a butcher. He kills people, in the tens of thousands very, very quickly. And in the narrations, it's said that the way in which he does that, it's very gruesome. He kills, listen to me, yeah? You don't even have to use your imagination anymore because the last 2 months you've seen this all on video. He kills babies in their mother's wombs. So imagine reading this and you think, how does that work? Hundreds of years ago. He kills babies in their mother's wombs and then he boils people. Boils them? White phosphorus. How does he boil them? What kind of weapons? He boils people and he kills them in numbers of tens of thousands very quickly. Later on, when he goes to Kufa, he kills 60,000 people in 3 days. So right now, everything's happening in Gaza. All that destruction is 20,000 people in over 2 months. He killed 60,000 in 3 days. So whatever weapons he's using, they're very deadly weapons and very efficient weapons. Okay? That's later on when he goes to Iraq, because he tries to invade the entire region. He wants global power. He is someone who, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Sallallahu Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, Imam Sadiq says that Abu Sufyan was the one who was fought against by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa and Muawiyah was fought against by Imam Ali alayhi salam. And you know, Bani Umayyah and Banu Hashim, they're cousins. Okay? So they go back to the same grandfather. So Abu Sufyan, the Prophet, they're cousins. Muawiyah, Imam Ali are cousins. So Yazid, Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, they're cousins. And ultimately, Sufyani will battle against Al-Qa'im. And they are also distant cousins. But this battle will continue between these two lines. The Sufyani starts to gather around all these soldiers, brings these soldiers all into this land first of all, he appears in between Jordan and Syria, first of all. His forces, they occupy a main part in Palestine. And then he begins his movement. And the first major battle that occurs is going to be in Syria, in a place known as Deir az-Zur today. And this battle will not be between us and the Sufyani. The beginning is not even around us. The beginning is all the superpowers are fighting each other. There's a global war going on at this time. Everyone is fighting, and there is a mountain of gold and silver discovered in this land, in Syria, and they fight. In the narrations, in Shaykh al-Mufid's Khisal, he says that they are Atrak wa Ikhwan al-Atrak. So some say that they are the Turks, but other scholars, they said that these are the Russians that the Sufyani will fight against first. So you can see the superpowers are all fighting each other now, okay? Because they want that gold mountain, could be oil, it could actually be gold or silver reserves, Lord knows. But there is something that people want, and they're fighting over it. In that battle, 100,000 people die. And in that battle, another narration says that 9 of every 10 people are killed, that it's a gruesome battle. But Sufyani dominates very, very quickly. He's very rapid, very dominant. His army dominates everyone very, very quickly. He doesn't lose many warriors. He kills anyone that stands in his way. And he kills them in the most gruesome way. So no one can stand in his way. He's making his Baba Mama very, very proud. He's moving very fast. Now, Sufyani keeps moving. He's not focused on the Shia until he takes over this land in Bilad al-Sham. So Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine, that's Bilad al-Sham. He starts to dominate this area. That's his main tactic in the beginning. He wants to dominate the area first. That's his main tactic. Then he decides, okay, because he knows that there is a coming of Imam al-Mahdi. Now, Sufyani emerges in the month of Rajab. The prophecy of the Imam returning is in Muharram. Sufyani has 6 months to do everything he can do to squash any sort of rebellion or tamheed for the Imam. We already know that the time that the Imam reappears in is supposed to be a time where people are in despair. Because there is famine, there is oppression, there is killing. We mentioned all those superpowers in our narrations. It says at this time, 3 million people around the world will be killed. 3 million people. because they're all fighting each other. It's not about, there's nothing to do with us. This is everyone's fighting each other over perhaps resources, and then 3 million of them are dead. There's a global war that's happening at the time. And the Sufyani is trying to establish his dominance in this part of the world first. He has 6 months to do this before the Imam comes, and he wants to squash any sort of rebellion or people that are supposed to be supporting the Imam. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam is asked, what should we do if we see the Sufyani? And the Imam replies to the companion, he says, if you fear him, then you can hide. If you fear him, you can hide and you won't be blamed. Imagine, he's saying, if you fear him, but look the if, because that means there are some that don't fear him. So although we believe in there being despair and complete oppression, there's another side, there's a group of people that are not scared. And they're creating a resistance against Sufyani. Even though he is demolishing everyone in his way, they're finding a way to resist against al-Sufyani and his movement. Now Sufyani looks towards them. And so he says he has to go to Kufa, because Kufa is the capital. That's where Imam Ali alayhi salam governed from. That's where Imam Mahdi will govern from. He has to establish himself in Kufa. So he says Iraq. He must go to Iraq and conquer Iraq. And as he enters Iraq, this is where the Shia are. Now, kill every Shia you can find. There are narrations from Imam Ali alayhi salam. He says, it's as if I can see the Sufyani now making his declaration, saying, for everyone who brings me the head of a Shi'i, he will receive 1,000 dirhams. And then people will come with heads of Shia, and they will take their payment. Then he says, it's as if I can see the veiled one amongst you who can speak your language and who acts like one of you. But then when he points to you, they come and they take you and they kill you. And the commentary on that part of the hadith is that there are going to be people amongst us who look like us, who talk like us, pretend to be part of us, but they're inner spies. There's someone in this room, Salaam alaikum. Okay, you know, amongst us in the mosque, there's always 1 or 2 guys here to go and report a fanatic or whatever. This is the veiled one. This is the same veiled one. Like to prevent strategy and all that kind of stuff. It's all there. It's happening now, yani. This is something that you can apply 100%. So you can see it, it's in your narrations, and you can apply it. That one, 100% the shoe fits. طيب. So the Imam is saying, I can see the veiled one, I can see the Sufyani calling for the heads of the Shia. The Sufyani marches through Iraq and he starts to go from town to town, killing everyone in his way, killing women, killing children, and killing every man he can find. There's no one that's supposed to remain alive that could be a helper of the Imam. No one's allowed. And there are people now, remember yesterday I said there are people on earth, al-abdal, they're gathering, they're working, they're with the Imam, they're working for the Imam. Perhaps we're under them, perhaps we're working for them, we don't know about it. These abdal, they'll be working themselves. He's looking for them, he's hunting them, he's hunting those that have the intention to be with the Imam. So, he's killing people by the thousands. At this time, black flags will come from Khurasan. There'll be a man that will rise known as Al-Khurasani, very powerful man. A man with great knowledge, and he will be coming towards Kufa as well. Imam al-Sadiq says, Sufyani and Al-Khurasani raced towards Kufa like 2 horses, one coming from the east, one coming from the west. And everything in the middle of them is getting destroyed in the crossfire. It's a great battle that's happening. Lots of mini battles and skirmishes happening. Ultimately, Sufyani reaches Kufa first, way before Khurasani. And he kills 60,000 people in Kufa in 3 days. Then he remains there for 18 days. He establishes his base. But then he gets a call from Hijaz, from Saudi, He has to go to Saudi now because there's an uprising going on. People around the world, they're seeing what's happening. People are dying everywhere. There's oppression everywhere. And people are speaking of the name of the Savior and the Messiah, and He's coming. And they need to squash this ASAP. So Sufyani, they can rely on him. He's someone, wherever he goes, he squashes, he destroys. So he decides to keep his army in Kufa, and he goes towards Hijaz. He sets on his way. At this time, another man comes from Yemen, called Al-Yamani. This man, in the narrations of Ahlul Bayt, he's a Sayyid. He is someone who is not known as a mujtahid or marja' or anything like that, but he has such great charisma and such courage that people come around him in droves. He is able to gather thousands and thousands of people around him like other people can't do. And his main mission is to go to meet Khurasani in order to prepare for the return of the Imam. So Al-Yamani sets on his way with his army also towards the army of the Sufyani. Likewise, Khurasani does the same until they reach Kufa and they destroy the army of Al-Sufyani that was in Kufa until they retreat. Without the Sufyani there, they retreat. When they retreat, they take over Kufa. And then in Kufa, they pledge allegiance to the Imam before the Imam comes back. So they're saying, we're ready. Yallah. They pledge allegiance to the Imam in Kufa now. Yamani and Khurasani are ready with their respective armies. But Sufyani has gathered his armies now towards Hijaz. He's gone towards Hijaz and he is hunting. Again, now in Hijaz, he goes to Medina and he starts killing all sorts of people in Medina. And he's hunting for the Imam. In this state, the narrations say the Imam is like Musa alayhi salam. He's waiting for the decree of Allah. Awaiting. He's with a man named Al-Mansur. Sometimes this man's named Muhammad, sometimes Al-Mansur. These two are together. It seems that this man Al-Mansur is his messenger. And they're waiting together until the Imam, this is months now have passed by. The Imam tells Al-Mansur, because Muharram now is in 2 weeks. He tells Al-Mansur to go towards Mecca and I will follow you. Go towards Mecca and announce that I'm coming. Because it's almost time. Mansur goes towards Mecca. In the middle of the Haram, he stands next to the Kaaba and he calls out that the Imam has returned. When he does this, he is immediately assassinated. And this man is known as Al-Nafsu Zakiyya, the pure soul. This is the final sign of the coming of the Imam. 2 weeks before the Imam returns, Al-Nafsu Zakiyya is killed. So Al-Nafsu Zakiyya now is killed. They trace this man, Al-Mansur, his family ties. They find his 2 children, Muhammad wa Fatima, in Medina, and they kill them by the mosque door and they crucify them. They crucify Muslim children all over Hijaz and Iraq. Sufyani now knows that the Imam has been announced, he's coming. Everyone's now scared. If anyone utters the word of the return of the Imam, they're killed. No one's allowed. So everyone's very scared and everyone's on edge at that time. As this is happening, here, subhanallah, the 313 warriors, they're brought together. By supernatural means. 313 of the greatest companions, the greatest men this earth has seen. The closest people to Imam Mahdi, chosen and gathered together by supernatural means. A miracle from Allah. These men will be initiated into the sacred science, sacred ilm, special ilm, and they will be given swords from heaven. Each one will have a sword from heaven. Inscribed upon each one's sword is 1,000 words, each word leading to 1,000 more. That's what's inscribed on each sword. of these 313 men. 313 was the number of the companions of the Prophet in the first battle of Islam, which was Badr. And it will be the number of the main generals of the Imam in his final battle. They're known as Jaysh al-Ghadab, the army of anger, or Jaysh al-Ikhlas, the army of the sincere ones, the devotees, or Jaysh al-Mahdi, al-Jaysh. And interestingly enough, in numerology, Jim, Ya, and Shin, they add up to 313 in terms of numerical value. So I believe that Jim is 3, and Ya is 10, and Shin is 100. Afwan, 300. I'll check that as soon as I finish now, because my memory is not serving me right. But 313 is the numerical value of the word Jaysh in Arabic. So then, these men will be given very special powers, so much that birds and beasts will obey them, and they can communicate with the Imam through their palms, the narrations say. Whether that means a cell phone or an actual palm, we don't know. But whenever the Imam wants to send them instructions or a direction, he communicates with them through their palms. They see the instruction. And they see, ultimately, as this is all happening, you can see that the people that want to be with the Imam are growing, but they're scared. The people want to be with the Imam are growing slowly, but they're afraid to be with the Imam. The ones who continue to fight against the Imam are the ignorant ones. The ones that they don't care if the truth is in front of them. Because another sign that occurs is the people of the cave also emerge on the coasts of Turkey with their dog. And Tabut as-Sakina that I mentioned in the beginning, the treasure, men who are companions of the Imam, they come with the treasure, with the gospel and the Torah. And the armies that were stationed along the coasts leading up to Palestine, they don't want to fight anymore. They don't want to fight anymore because they're seeing the truth in front of them. The ones that continue, the part of the Sufyani's army that continues, is seen as people who are renegades. They're rogue and renegades. At this time, the balance of power is starting to shift because people, they don't want this anymore. The people of Rome even are seeing the truth. The people of Rome, sallallahu alaihi wa Muhammad. Ahsant, everyone should say it like you. The people of Rome, now, even they, when they're given the gospel and they're given the Torah in its true form, they don't want to continue anymore. They actually now are seeing the people of the cave are here and the miracles are happening. And there's 313 of these guys that came out of nowhere with swords and all these sorts of powers. Who wants to fight against that? So the balance of power is shifting. 2 weeks after a Nafs Zakiyah is assassinated, it is now the 9th night of Ashura. Okay? The 9th night of Muharram. The night before Ashura. On this night, the Imam comes to Mecca and he enters the Haram. And he enters with the 313, but they all enter individually. They enter into the mosque in different places, and under them, they bring with them followers. They're able to gather hundreds or maybe even thousands of other people that also follow them, and they are placed all around, in and around the mosque for what's about to happen. Okay? And these followers, they come from all sorts of lands. Today I was reading the narration of the 313 men. Imam Ali alayhi salam actually starts to say their names, and then he says where they're from. And they're from all sorts of countries. Some of them you recognize, like Syria and Palestine and Lebanon and Iraq and Iran. But then most of them are not actually Arab, by the way. Very, very minimal Arabs. And you don't even recognize 3/4 of the countries because they're not the same names. So they're from all over the world. They're English and Chinese and Brazilian and whatever you want. All over the world, these men have come and they've gathered their followers from all over the world and they've come towards Mecca and they're placed in and around now in Mecca, in the Haram. And as they enter, after they pray Isha, one of them, the companion, stands up and then he calls out, "O people, the time has come. Your Savior has arrived." And as he says that, the authorities, obviously, they jump towards attacking him. People see this, they're afraid. Some people try to run away and leave. But then the 313, they stand up and they protect the messenger. And then all the other followers that are around there, they all planned it out. They all stand up and they go face to face with the authorities of the time. And no blood is shed because as soon as he says that, the Imam stands up. Sallallahu alaihi Muhammad. The Imam stands up with a black stone behind him. They're raising the flag. He has the stick of Moses and he has the ring of Sulaiman and he has the weapon of Rasulullah. And he calls out, "I am the son of Rasulullah. I invite you to the religion of Allah and the religion of His Messenger. I invite you to kill falsehood and come back to the origin." And as he stands there with the flag raised high, no blood is shed, and the people begin to do bay'ah. And the first to do bay'ah are Jibreel and Mikael. This is what the narrations say. This is the story. I'll continue tomorrow because I don't want to keep going. But this is the story of the return of the Imam according to the narrations of the Ahlul Bayt. These are scattered. They're not in a book. They're scattered narrations that I try to bring to you chronologically. Okay? So this is me bringing it to you chronologically. It's not set out this way. So you won't be able to find it like this. However, if you are to go and research, you will find that this ultimately is how the events are going to take place according to the Ahlul Bayt's reports. Now, something very important that I want to say is, a lot of these reports have to be approached with caution. You can't take things literally because sometimes they're symbolic, sometimes they're metaphorical. So I don't want you to ever think if something didn't happen, that means the Ahlul Bayt said something that didn't happen. How could that be? That's not the case. There could be a weak chain somewhere. There could be something that you didn't understand. It could have been a metaphor, just like I mentioned. The names even are not alluding to their actual names. So you must read in between the lines a lot when it comes to this topic. Okay? The Imam returns to avenge the blood of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. The Imam returns to finally cool the heart of Sayyidah Zahra alayhi salam. Sayyidah Zahra was a mercy for her father. We know that in our Islamic tradition, our reports tell us that when you have a son, it's a blessing. But when you have a daughter, it's a mercy. And when we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will ask us about our blessings and what we did with them. He will not ask us about our mercies. So Fatima alayhi salam is the mercy to who? And Rasulullah is rahmatan lil alameen. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We did not send you except to be mercy to the worlds. So Rasulullah is mercy for all of us, and Fatima is the mercy of Rasulullah. Ya Rasulullah. Do you know what they did to your mercy? When they entered her house, when they struck your rahmah, when they broke your rahmah's ribs, when Imam Ali alayhi salam went to fight Amr ibn Abdul Wid, Rasulullah called out, برز الإيمان كله إلى الكفر كله. Complete Iman has emerged to fight against complete kufr. And we know that a man's Iman is not complete until he is married. So Fatima completes the Iman of complete Iman. Yet, when he was washing her body, he ends up crying in the corner. Complete Iman ends up crying in the corner. Because as his hands move over her ribs, he feels the cracked bones that she never complained about. Al-Hassan wal-Hussain or Sayyida Shabab Al-Jannah, the princes of the youth of paradise. Yet paradise lies at the feet of their mother. So they're the princes of the youth of paradise, but their paradise is at the feet of Fatima. Yet they had to witness at a very young age, they were under 10 years old, they witnessed men come into the house and gather around their mother. They had to walk with their father in the middle of the night towards their mother's grave and say goodbye. Orphans. Ya Zahra.